Welcome to my yearly ranking lists in which I rank all the PlayStation games I've played from a specific year. This video marks the beginning of the PlayStation brand. This is 1995. So it's important to note I'm from the UK, so for all of my games I'll be using their European release dates. The PlayStation 1 released at the very end of September of 1995, so most of the games on this list will have been launch titles, and well, it's not the best launch that it could have been. Starting us off at 9th place is vehicular combat futuristic racing game High Octane. While this was a functional racer and had some decent mechanics such as pit stops, the whole presentation of the game lets it down. What with super blocky graphics and textures, a disastrous frame rate and ghastly draw distance that makes it feel like driving through a dystopian future of Silent Hill. In the end, this was a pretty forgettable racer with not much to show for itself. The PlayStation's first ever 2D fighting game sits at number 8, Street Fighter the Movie. Based off the film that did not get well received at all, somehow Capcom still felt it needed a tie-in video game. This really was like a what if Street Fighter dropped its beautiful art style and animations for Mortal Kombat's digitized graphics. And while it's most certainly a sight to behold, Street Fighter the Movie the game loses a lot of what made the series iconic to begin with. What with many of the characters looking like cheap cosplay imitations of their previous selves, or all the stages missing their unique look and feel for washed out and forgettable backgrounds. A new addition Street Fighter the Movie added was a story mode, which was something most fighting games at the time didn't put more work into. Unfortunately, the story mode here is very tiresome and boring, only following the plot of the movie and restricting you to just playing as Guile the whole way through it. And to add, the AI in this game I remember was painful, having you to just cheese your way through fights just to win. Street Fighter the Movie is still a solid fighting game with great mechanics, but it's botched down by unsatisfying modes and drab presentation. Sitting at number 7 spot is the third iteration in the Mortal Kombat series. This game is really like the black sheep of the series, as not only did it take place in a more urban setting which feels very 90s, but it dropped many of this series' most iconic characters such as Johnny Cage, Raiden and Scorpion. Still, the PlayStation version of Mortal Kombat 3 was a big upgrade in terms of graphics and an addition of an extra character, Smoke. Still, this couldn't save Mortal Kombat 3 from its laughably poor finishing moves, its forgettable character replacements like the traffic cop Striker, and its uneventful fighting arenas. And you know the best thing? Just a month after Mortal Kombat 3 hit the PS1, the arcades got Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which restored cut characters and had better arenas and themes. This made PS1 Mortal Kombat 3 pretty much obsolete soon after its release. It's a fun fighting game but a product of its time, and just not nearly the best in the series. Our 6th spot is the game that was most marketed alongside the PlayStation 1 back in 94 and 95. Battle Arena to Shinden, the first 3D fighter for PlayStation, releasing on the same day as the console. It's a weapons-based fighter with each of its playable fighters wielding some form of melee weapon. The most iconic and most marketed was the Russian dominatrix Sophia with her mighty whip. The most charming aspect of Battle Arena to Shinden was how it used the PlayStation's limitations to its own advantage, to create some highly memorable and strikingly colourful cast of characters and stages. Battle Arena to Shinden plays like any traditional fighter out there, with each character having special moves to pull off. However, it must be said it is a slow fighter. Its 3D movement was new at the time, and it's most certainly been done better since. It can be sluggish to turn around and difficult to execute larger combos due to how far back your enemy goes after being hit. It is an ambitious fighting game, but lacks balance and depth. At number 5 is Ridge Racer, one of my most played games in today's video, and that was down to purely how catchy and awesome the soundtrack to this game is, as I explain in further detail in my video game soundtracks video. Ridge Racer is a fun racing game, but it is almost like the blueprint for racing games. It only has 4 cars to choose from, 11 if you manage to beat the cool Galaxian game before the game loads, and there's only 1 track in the whole game. Not to mention the driving physics are severely outdated. But while it's lacking in content and mechanics, Ridge Racer was still a pioneer in 3D racing, and surprisingly is still fun to go back to and play today. At 4 is Jumping Flash, one of PlayStation's first mascot titles. Jumping Flash is a really bizarre game even today. It's essentially a first-person shooter platformer hybrid. You play as a robot rabbit superhero thing known as Robbit, and save these creatures from the dastardly villain Baron Aloha, all whilst munching down on carrots. It's a good first outing for PlayStation's wide array of franchises. Its platforming is quite fun due to its colourful and vibrant levels. Where it falls though is in its shooter gameplay. It's not the most well tuned and it's rather shallow. There's no strafe feature to more accurately dodge incoming projectiles, making you a sitting duck. Jumping Flash certainly isn't an award winner or Game of the Year material, it's just a small idea, again best saved for the history books. Beginning our top 3, we have Ubisoft's first entry onto PlayStation with Rayman. This is a more traditional sprite-based 2D platformer. However, Rayman was a lot more challenging than your run-of-the-mill children's game, and it also starred a great little character, Rayman, who is famous for his lack of limbs, giving him the ability to literally throw his punches. And whilst Rayman is a dazzling platformer with gorgeous graphics and animations, it still plays into that trial and error format too much that it makes the game more frustrating than enjoyable. With very little room for error if at all, lack of continues, and constantly respawning enemies, Rayman is better in memory. Our runner-up is the original Tekken. This is without a doubt the greatest fighter I've played from 1995. It brought with it a deep new fighting game system, which instead of having a slow strong attack and fast light attacks, swaps that with a left punch, left kick and right kick attacks. It had a large cast of characters to play as, and a strong backstory behind the formation of the Iron Fist tournament. However, what drags it back from top spot is the first Tekken is very rough around the edges. Fighting is slow, and trying to perform more complex moves is not only tedious to learn, but also a pain to execute, as Tekken has some input detection issues. Some characters also, like Law and Jack, have movesets which not much to really go off, causing the roster to feel quite unbalanced. And the graphics are poor even for the time, having fuzzy backgrounds and character models in which their limbs clip through other parts of their body. Tekken has a solid core, but a little more polish could have went a long way. Our number 1 and my 1995 Game of the Year is PlayStation's Doom. This is the Doom you all know and love. In fact, it's Doom and Doom 2 Hell on Earth packaged within the same game. This means you can get the super shotgun in the first game's levels. With its groundbreaking design and state-of-the-art first-person shooter gameplay of the time, there's no better game from this year than Doom. And so that has been my ranking of all the PlayStation games I've played from 1995. Next episode we'll go to 1996, the first full year for PlayStation. And what a year it was, birthing many iconic franchises such as Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil, and many more. I'll see you there, and adios, take care.